The moment Gabriel Magalhaes stepped up to take that penalty, every Arsenal supporter watching in Budapest, watching at home, watching anywhere in the world, felt something shift inside them. This was it. This was the moment. The Champions League final, the biggest stage in club football, and the man walking up to that spot was not a striker. He was not a penalty specialist. He was a centre-back, a defender. And what happened next will stay with Arsenal fans for a very long time. Gabriel hit the ball over the crossbar. Not wide. Not saved. Over. Gone. And with it, Arsenal's dream of lifting the Champions League trophy for the first time in the club's history disappeared into the Budapest night. That is where this story begins. Not with tactics, not with statistics, but with that single moment, because everything that followed, every reaction, every piece of analysis, every quote from players, managers and pundits flows directly from that one kick of a football. Let us go through everything step by step and understand exactly what happened tonight and what it means for Arsenal Football Club. Before we go deeper, it is important that you understand just how significant this moment was for Arsenal as a club. The situation is this. Arsenal have now played 226 matches in European Cup and Champions League history, 226, and they have never, not once, lifted that famous trophy. That is not a small number. That is the highest total of any club in the competition's history without winning it. Every single one of those 226 matches, from the early years to this final in Budapest, has ended without Arsenal becoming champions of Europe. The reality for the club is that this night in Budapest was their closest moment yet, and it slipped away on penalties. Now, if you want this kind of deep, detailed analysis on every major Arsenal story, every decision, every result, and every moment that matters, then hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is built for serious Arsenal supporters who want the full picture, not just headlines. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let us get into everything that happened tonight. The match itself. Let us talk about what actually happened during the 90 minutes and beyond. The score at the end of extra time was 1 goal each. Arsenal and PSG were level after 120 minutes of football, and the tie was forced into a penalty shootout. But here is where the statistics tell a very uncomfortable story for Arsenal supporters. The evidence suggests that Arsenal were not in this game in the traditional sense. PSG had 75% of the ball. Arsenal had just 25%. PSG had 18 shots. Arsenal had 4. PSG had 10 corners. Arsenal had 0. PSG had 591 passes. Arsenal had 145. And in terms of expected goals, PSG registered 1.44. Arsenal registered just 0.35. Those numbers are extraordinary. Arsenal managed to reach extra time and even lead at one point during the match, with those kinds of statistics against them. That tells you two things. First, Arsenal defended with incredible organisation and discipline. Second, PSG were the dominant force throughout the evening and on the balance of play were the deserving winners. Now, the possession figure specifically is something worth paying attention to. It is now clear that Arsenal's possession average of 24.7% was the lowest ever recorded by any team in a Champions League final since records began in the 2003 to 2004 season. It was also the lowest possession figure in any match under Mikel Arteta, where Arsenal had 11 men on the pitch throughout the entire game. That is a significant analytical point. Arteta has built his Arsenal around pressing, intensity and control in certain phases. But tonight, against PSG's quality and aggression, Arsenal were pushed back almost entirely. They sat in a low block. They defended deep. They absorbed pressure. And for a long time it was working. Vitinha speaks. PSG's Vitinha spoke after the match, and his words are worth examining carefully because they give us the PSG perspective on exactly what Arsenal were doing and why it made the game so difficult. Vitinha said, and these are his words, "You have to be very patient against teams like this, especially as Arsenal were leading at one point." He then added, "It is difficult. Arsenal waste a lot of time at every opportunity. Goal kicks, free kicks." And he continued, "Apart from that, they play with a low block. It is difficult. You have to be very patient." Now let us analyse those comments. Vitinha is not being disrespectful. He is being honest about what Arsenal did tactically and why it was effective for large portions of the match. Arsenal were not trying to outplay PSG. They were trying to frustrate PSG. They were trying to slow the game down, deny space, and hit on the counter. And the fact that they led at one point shows that the approach had genuine merit. The comment about time wasting is interesting as well. It is a tactical tool. It is legal. And when you are the underdog against a team with 75% possession and 591 passes, every second you can slow the game down is a second that works in your favour. Vitinha acknowledging it shows that it was noticeable and that it disrupted PSG's rhythm. This is not a team that simply parked the bus and hoped for the best. This is a team that executed a specific tactical plan with great discipline for 120 minutes. The fact that it came down to penalties is proof that the plan was close to working. The penalty shootout, and then came the shootout. Arsenal lost 4-3 on penalties. Gabriel Magalhaes and Ebereki Eze were the two Arsenal players whose penalties did not go in. Let us focus on Gabriel first, because his situation is particularly painful to analyse. The evidence is clear on this point. Gabriel's penalty, which he hit over the crossbar, was the first penalty to go over the bar in a Champions League final shootout since Milan's Serginho did the same against Liverpool in 2005. That was over 20 years ago. And here is the detail that makes it even harder to process. It was the first penalty that Gabriel Magalhaes had ever taken for Arsenal Football Club. His first ever penalty for the club, and it came in the Champions League final shootout. The pressure involved in that moment is almost impossible to put into words. The situation around Declan Rice's reaction tells us something important about the character inside that Arsenal dressing room. Rice spoke to TNT Sports after the match and said, obviously devastated. To miss a penalty in the Champions League final is not nice, but we love them and we are with them. He then added, look, that happens in football. They are not going to be the last players to miss penalties in finals. Everyone has missed a penalty. And then came the line that stood out most from Rice's interview. He said, without these two this season, we would not have won the Premier League. That is for sure. That is a captain's response. That is leadership. Rice is not throwing anyone under the bus. He is not criticising the decision to send Gabriel up. He is protecting his teammates and reminding everyone of the bigger picture. He also said about Gabriel specifically, I have run out of words for him as a person and a player. And about Eze, he said, for the crucial goals he has come up with for us this year, it happens, it is football, and it is cruel. But we take the positives and we keep going. Martin Keown on Gabriel. Martin Keown also spoke after the match, and his words about Gabriel deserve to be heard clearly. Keown said, he is my favourite Arsenal player. I have watched him all season and I take a lot of joy from it. He does not have to be ashamed about anything that he has done tonight. He then continued, he had the bottle to go out there and take it. He missed it, but he was magnificent during the game. A real leader for Arsenal. Keown also addressed Eze, saying, Eze is another player who you just love watching, so it is hard to take. But this Arsenal team can be proud of their performance and how they have done this season. And then Keown made a point that is analytically very important. He said, this is their only defeat in the Champions League this season on penalties. Let that settle for a moment. Arsenal went through an entire Champions League campaign and their only defeat came in the final, decided on penalties. That is not a failed campaign. That is a remarkable campaign. And that context matters when we evaluate what Arteta's team has achieved this season. Keown on Arsenal's future. Keown did not stop at reflecting on the defeat. He looked forward as well, and his assessment is one that should give Arsenal supporters genuine belief for next season. He said, Arsenal will be back bigger, better and stronger. They will be in the transfer market, and this is just the start for Mikel Arteta with the confidence of winning a Premier League. He then added the line that captures Arsenal's position perfectly. He said, they were just one penalty kick away from becoming European champions, so I think that is a great place to build from. One penalty kick away. That is the margin between Arsenal being Champions League winners and Champions League runners-up. One kick. And that is not a small thing. That is a fact that should drive this club forward with enormous purpose into the summer transfer window and into next season. Thierry Henry's verdict? Thierry Henry, the greatest goalscorer in Arsenal's history, also gave his verdict after the match. And his words were simple, direct and true. Henry said, this is not failure. That is a great season for Arsenal Football Club. There is nothing more to add to that quote analytically. It captures the situation exactly. Winning the Premier League for the first time in 22 years and reaching the Champions League final is not failure. It is progress. It is evidence that this Arsenal project under Arteta is moving in the right direction. Luis Enrique on the night. From the winning side, Luis Enrique gave his reaction on the pitch after the match. The PSG manager said, I am mixed. Excitement, fatigue, everything. But this is the best moment of the season. We are still champions 2 in a row. It is amazing. He then addressed Arsenal directly. He said, we deserved that. Our supporters during the whole season, we deserved to be in the final. It was very tough and difficult. Congratulations to Arsenal. It was very tough. They played great. It is normal. They tried to take the match into phases. They are strong. We tried to control the ball and press. We have won the title. Now let us analyse Enrique's words carefully. He acknowledged that Arsenal made the game difficult. He acknowledged that Arsenal were strong in certain phases of play. And he gave a genuine congratulations to Arteta's team. This is not a man who felt his team had an easy night. This is a manager who knew exactly how close this final was to going the other way. And the line about Arsenal trying to take the match into phases where they are strong is essentially Enrique confirming what Vitinha was saying. Arsenal had a plan. They executed it. PSG had to work extremely hard to overcome it. The fact that PSG eventually did, through the lottery of penalties, should not diminish what Arsenal produced over 120 minutes. The controversies. Now let us deal with the refereeing decisions because there were several moments in this final that sparked debate. The first major controversy involved a challenge by PSG's Nuno Mendes on Arsenal's Noni Madueke. Arsenal felt this should have been a penalty. The referee did not agree. VAR reviewed the situation and did not overturn the decision. Steven Gerrard, speaking on TNT, gave his view on the Madueke incident. He said, "I have seen loads of them given. I do not think it is a clear and obvious one, but I have seen loads of them given." That is a balanced and honest assessment. Gerrard is not saying it was definitely a penalty. He is saying it was the kind of challenge that sometimes gets given and sometimes does not. The inconsistency in how these decisions are made is a genuine problem in the game, and this was another example of that inconsistency affecting a major moment. Former Premier League referee Graham Scott also gave his verdict on the Madueke incident. He said there will be plenty of comments along the line of, "I have seen them given," and I doubt a VAR would have seen enough to overturn a penalty had one been awarded. But then Scott added something important. He said, "But ultimately, I would rather defend the referee for keeping out of this one than try to build a defence had he succumbed to pressure and pointed to the spot." What Scott is saying here is that the referee made a defensible decision. Not necessarily the only decision, but a defensible one. And in a Champions League final, where the pressure on officials is enormous, making a decision you can defend is important. The second controversy involved PSG's Christian Mosquera, who many felt should have been sent off during the match. That call was also reviewed and not overturned. The evidence suggests that both sides had genuine grievances about refereeing decisions during this final. The Mosquera red card call went against Arsenal. But it is also now clear that Bukayo Saka may have been fortunate not to concede a decision for a handball earlier in the game. These things tend to balance out over the course of a match, and the honest analytical conclusion is that neither team can claim to have been completely wronged by the officiating. The Opta statistics and what they tell us. Let us return to the Opta data because some of these numbers are extraordinary and deserve proper analysis. The possession figure of 24.7% is the one that will attract the most attention. It is a record low for a Champions League final, but possession is not the same as quality. Arsenal created enough to score and to lead at one point in this match. The reality for the club is that possession percentages alone do not tell the full story of a football match. What the statistics do confirm is that PSG were the dominant team. They had more shots, more corners, more passes, more touches in the opposition box. On almost every measurable metric, PSG was superior on the night. And yet the match went to penalties. That tells you about Arsenal's defensive quality, their organisation, and their ability to hold a structure under pressure. The 226 matches without a European Cup is the other number that will hang over this night. It is a painful record. But it is also a record that now feels closer to ending than at any point in Arsenal's history. Because this season showed that Arteta's Arsenal can compete at the highest level in Europe. They can reach the final. They can hold their own against one of the best club sides on the continent. The gap between Arsenal and the top of European football is closing. Tonight proved that. The reality for the club is that the focus now turns to recovery, reflection, and planning. Several Arsenal players will leave for the World Cup after this match, according to the information available tonight. That means the summer will be split between international football and preparation for next season. Arteta and his staff will already be thinking about the transfer market. Martin Keown made clear that Arsenal will be active in that market. And with the confidence of a Premier League title and a Champions League final appearance behind them, the club is in a strong position to attract the players they need. The message from the Arsenal camp tonight has been consistent. We are not broken. We are not finished. We are building. Declan Rice said, "We will be back." The fan sentiment, even in the immediate aftermath of the defeat, has been one of pride rather than despair. One supporter account put it well tonight, saying they felt no sadness, only pride, because this group of players won the Premier League after 22 years and took the club to a Champions League final. They called these players kings who will be remembered forever. Let us bring everything together. Arsenal lost the Champions League final to Paris Saint-Germain on penalties. The score after extra time was 1 goal each. The shootout ended 4-3 in PSG's favour. Gabriel Magalhaes and Eberechi Eze missed for Arsenal. Gabriel's miss was the first penalty over the bar in a Champions League final shootout in over 20 years. It was also the first penalty he had ever taken for the club. The match statistics showed PSG as the dominant team throughout, with Arsenal producing the lowest possession figure in Champions League final history since records began. But Arsenal had a tactical plan, they executed it with discipline, and they were in the tie all the way to the shootout. The refereeing decisions were debated, with Arsenal feeling they deserved a penalty for a challenge on Madueke. Experienced voices like Steven Gerrard said they had seen similar decisions given elsewhere. Former referee Graham Scott defended the referee's choice not to award it. Luis Enrique praised Arsenal after winning back-to-back Champions League titles. He called them tough and difficult opponents who played great football. That is the verdict of the man on the winning side. Martin Keown said Arsenal will come back bigger, better and stronger. Thierry Henry said this season was not failure. Declan Rice said this team will be back. And the reality for Arsenal Football Club is this. They have now played 226 matches in European competition without winning the trophy. But they have never been this close. And under Mikel Arteta, with the foundation of a Premier League title and a Champions League final, the direction of travel is clear. The next chapter for this Arsenal team is still being written. And based on everything shown tonight, it promises to be an extraordinary one. That is the full analysis. Thank you for watching Tessa Arsenal Analyst. If this kind of deep, honest breakdown is what you are looking for, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below with your thoughts on tonight's final, and we will be back with more analysis very soon.